Hi, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of So What Else? We are back with an interview today. It is interesting because I've been thinking about this a lot. So, we've been doing So What Else for over 5 years now, right? I think so. I hope that's right. Over 5 years, I'm pretty sure. Um, and it's taken on a lot of different forms. At the very beginning, So What Else was all just interviews. Then we started incorporating like the episodes like once a month, then it became like twice a month. So now, whatever. It's the podcast has seen a lot of different iterations. There have been times where we've gone like long stretches without an interview. And I always get very mixed feedback from people. Like there's people that will say to me, like, well, I love the interviews, never stop doing them. And then I have people that are like, well, like I prefer the episodes, to be honest. I kind of skip the interviews, so it's like, then there's whatever. The point is, I think that everyone likes something different. Some people really appreciate the interviews. Some people prefer kind of the more chatty episodes. It just sort of depends. So hence why we've fallen into the every other week flow where it goes interview, then episode, then interview, then episodes. Then everyone's kind of getting what they like. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but like obviously my long-term goal for this podcast, like when I have, more time and less toddlers in my face 24/7, my goal would be to have 2 episodes per week, a episode every week and an interview every week. But we got to like work with what we have available to us right now. And so right now, we have the capacity for 1 episode per week, and we do an interview and then a episode every other week. All the things, right? I personally couldn't possibly, that would be like for me to pick a favorite kid because like obviously episodes are so much fun, like sitting around with Emily and Matt and Scott or just Scott or sometimes Caroline or whoever, like sitting around and just chatting about life is like my literal love language. Like what more could I want for my life? You know what I mean? But I also really love the interviews. Like it's really good for me and my own personal development to like read these books and talk to these people. I have learned so much from the interviews that I've done that it's like I wouldn't even want to give it up because I've like gotten to talk to people that I'm like, pinch me. I can't believe I got to sit on a Zoom with this person for an hour and pick their brain, Like it's such a cool opportunity and I feel like I've learned a lot and my life has genuinely been changed by some of these people who've been on this podcast. So anyway, the one thing about interviews though is that I do feel like I miss that like chattiness with you guys. Like I feel like then it's like a whole week of like not getting to, I don't know, talk about myself. I don't even know what I'm talking about really, but I miss the chattiness, of like a episode when it's an interview week. So maybe I'll just start doing longer intros before my interviews as I'm doing now, where I'm just being chatty. Or maybe I won't. I don't know. But in the past, like I feel like my intros for the interview episodes are like I try to keep them as short as humanly possible. So I'm like speed talking through it. And then I'm like, I'm not really sure why I'm doing that. Like I can just talk to people at the pace that I want to talk to them. I don't know. We'll try this out. Maybe we'll try this out a few times, do this like a longer intro and see how it feels. And if everyone's like, this is terrible, then I won't do it again. Okay. So tell me what you feel. I won't be offended. If you're like, that was really dumb, please never do a long intro like that again, Caitlin, because like, oh my gosh, I was dying. So, you can tell me that. That's totally fine. So anyway, this week, our interview for this week is Jennifer Dukes Lee, and we're talking about her new book, How to Love Your Morning, Faith-Filled Habits to Build a Life of Joy and Purpose One Day at a Time. Now, listen, I'm going to be so honest with you. And I said this to Jennifer in the interview. I was sent her book by her publishing company, I guess. And when I opened it and I saw the title was How to Love Your Morning, I opened it and I was like, oh, like, because I have so much like guilt about not being good in the mornings and about like not really waking up before my kids and about whatever, just like always feeling so tired and sluggish in the morning and not wanting to be productive in the morning. Like I just, whatever, not having like a morning quiet time, which by the way, we say the term quiet time so much in this episode, which like honestly makes me cringe a little bit because I kind of like hate the term quiet time. If you don't come from like a Christian evangelical background, you're probably like, what the heck is quiet time? Just to like define that for you. Christian like evangelical spaces talk about like having quiet time in the morning, meaning like a time where you're like reading your Bible and in prayer and just like, meeting with God before you start your day. Now, whatever. This could be a whole other episode. We clearly don't have time for this now, but obviously there's some people that kind of teach this to kids when they're young as like, if you don't wake up and spend your first 30 minutes reading your Bible, then it's like, what the heck are you doing? Obviously, like that's it. You have to, as we discuss in this episode, there's many different ways to meet with God, and there's many different avenues to meet with God. And that's what I think was really life-giving for me about this book and about this interview in general. But back to what I was saying, when I first saw the title of the book, I was like, oh, I don't want to have someone on this podcast who's going to talk to me for an hour about how, like, you have to set your alarm earlier. And if you don't, then, like, what are you doing? You're wasting your life. Like, I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel, like, stressed out, like, whatever. But for whatever reason, I just had this nagging feeling of, like, I should still read this book and do this interview. So I did. And obviously, I'm really glad that I did. The book is really, really good. It didn't make me feel judged. It didn't make me feel like you suck if you don't feel like you're a morning person. She talks all about people who like naturally self-identify as morning people who don't, like people who are more like night owls, people who have different kinds of schedules. Like she talks about figuring out your archetype and figuring out like what excites you to get up in the morning. Like if you're more of a mover, if you're more of a meditator, if you're whatever, we get all into it. And I just really like that she was like very, very clear about like, it's not about the time you wake up. It's about like the intention with which you wake up and how you're taking on your day, and how like if we take on our day and we meet with God in some way, if we interact with God in some way first thing in the morning, how that's going to just like set us off on such a better day. And it just like was an inspiring conversation for me. Her book is very inspirational and also very practical. Like there's a lot of practical tips. So I really do think you're going to enjoy this conversation. If you're a morning person and like you already self-identify as that and like you already wake up early, you're going to love it because you're going to be like, yeah, this is like, I love this. But if you're not naturally a morning person, if you have a really hard time waking up before you absolutely have to, right? Like waking up before your kids or waking up before the last possible second or you're going to be late. If you're that kind of a person, then I really do encourage you to listen to this because it really like it helped me. The concepts in the book and the concepts that we talked about helped me. And it's been this very weird thing. I say this to Jennifer in the episode. This week, because I was preparing for this interview, I was like, okay, I got to wake up before the kids this week and just kind of like get myself into that mindset. And I've been naturally like waking up even before my alarm this whole week and feeling well rested. And I don't know if that was just like a God thing and him just like being like, I'm going to usher you into this morning conversation that you're about to have. I don't know, but it has felt really good. Like I will say, I felt like a better version of myself this week, which like, as a non-morning person, I hate to admit that out loud, but here we are. So anyway, welcome to the longest, rambliest intro that I've ever done. Hope you really enjoyed it. If not, let me know. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation with Jennifer Dukes-Lee. Like I said, whether you're a morning person or not, you're going to get something out of this. So stay tuned and enjoy it. Love you all. I'm just really excited to talk to you. Your book was sent to me a few months ago. And I remember like when I opened it, I was like, oh, for people who don't know, her book is called How to Love Your Morning. And I was like, oh no. Is God trying to tell me that I'm supposed to like, wait, like I'm not a morning person. I don't want to do this. Like, and I was like, I don't know. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And then I remember I kind of like stalked you on Instagram anyway. I was like looking up some stuff and I was like, she seems pretty cool. Like I'm going to reach out. I want to set up the interview. So we set up the interview and it's just so funny because this week I've been reading your book in preparation for this interview. And it's so funny because a few things. Last week, I had a meeting with my spiritual director who I meet with monthly, and we just happened to fall into a conversation about so many things you talk about in your book. So that was number one. But then number two, this week, kind of in like an effort to like live the book, I was like, I'm going to wake up early like this week before my kids. I have to do it. I got to. And the weird thing is I set my alarm every day this week for 6:30. And every day this week, I naturally woke up at 6:15. It was very strange. It was very strange. Every day I opened my eyes and I would be like, the sun's up, and I would roll over and I was like, it's 6:15. My alarm's about to go off. I guess I'll get up. And I had very nice mornings this week. And I think I was a nicer mother. So
why do you think that was?
Because I wasn't being woken by my children. I really think it's like, you know, like everything you say in the book, there's like really something to be said for, I love the quote you said, it's not about when you wake up, but who you wake up to be. And if you wake up before your kids or before your whatever it is that you have to do, you have a moment to have your coffee in peace, center yourself, pray a little. And it's just like you do your day different. You just do. So I've really enjoyed the book. I read it cover to cover. There's so much good stuff in here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it because it's very timely for me and my life, but I love how you talk about how this is for everyone. The morning game is for everyone. So I want to get into it. But before we get into talking about mornings, you touch in the book a little bit about your story of faith and how like you weren't necessarily like raised like living this way. And I was really like intrigued about your story. So I was wondering if you would kind of start by telling us about that.
Yeah. So I was actually raised in a believing family. I went to church every Sunday, did all the Bible school things, did all the churchy things, was baptized, confirmed by faith, all of those kinds of things. But inside, I carried a big secret. And that was, I don't know if God's real. And I don't even know if Jesus is like a real historical figure. When I was about 16, 17 years old, I played trumpet. And because of that, I was often asked to play taps in cemeteries for the military men. So I'd get out of school, I'd get a pass to go to the cemetery, and I'd stand by that hole in the ground before the family got there. The funeral director was there, and there was a military guy there, and they were telling me now, they were always like, you need to stand by this tree or stand by this shed. And it was like, wah, wah, wah. Like wasn't even hearing them because I'm looking at that hole and thinking, I'm going to have one of those someday. I'm going to be in a 6-foot deep hole, and that's it. So even though I was, encountering the scriptures and encountering good teaching, I just didn't intellectually believe, and I carried that in me as a secret. It was very shameful. I'm certain if I would have taken it to a pastor that they would have treated me gently, but it just didn't feel like it at the time. So I just carried that with me into early adulthood, and just at night, it was the worst. It just felt like a heaviness on my chest. It felt like this is it. But you start to ponder, I think, in your 20s, the meaning of life. Like, why am I here? What's this all about? And I was like, I have got to get this settled. I've got to figure this out. I wouldn't say I was an unbeliever. I was a wanna believer because I really did want to believe. So on news assignments, I was a newspaper reporter. I traveled all over the Midwest, and I used to listen to country music. And then I got sick of the same songs playing all the time. So I started listening to AM radio. And the wild thing was I would come across these Christian, shows that the scriptures were coming alive to me. I'm like, what? This is incredible. Scriptures that I'd heard so many times when I was a kid, but it was coming alive to me. And then at the very end, they would sometimes pray that you can pray this prayer if you want to know the Lord and Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Pray this prayer. And so I'd pray that prayer, and I'd be like, okay, I gave my life to the Lord. I don't know if I'd feel any different. A couple weeks later, I'd do the same thing all over again. If I thought if it's if one time giving your life to the Lord is good, like 50 times is even better.
Yeah, might as well cover yourself.
Right. So I don't know when I became a believer. All I know is that I started to believe, and one of the big things for me was prophecy. I began to like when things hundreds of years earlier were predicted that happened in the life of Jesus, it kind of blew my mind. I
Yeah.
began to study the historical Jesus, and I began to interrogate the Bible like I was interrogating my news sources. And what was happening here is that I was belief was started with kind of like with choices,
Yeah.
like making one choice after another. Like, I don't know what I believe yet, God, but I'm going to take on the habits of a believer. I'm going to I'm going to read the Bible, and I'm going to become a Bible reader by habitually reading the Bible. I'm going to come to know you, God, by habitually spending time with you. And it was through all of that, through years of that, that I became a believer, and instead of just a wanna believer. And I mean, it blows my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
16-year-old me didn't know what if Jesus was even real. And now
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s, and like, he's my best friend, and he's also the CEO of my ministry. I mean, only God.
It's very cool. Yeah. I really, I appreciated so much in your story how you said that you don't have like a day or a date or a time where you're like, and this was the moment where I like walked from unbelief or wanna belief into belief. Like, it was a gradual thing. That's something I talk about a lot, is that I think that growing up in evangelical spaces, there's a lot of emphasis placed on like, when did you become a believer? When did you first believe? What was the day? And that's fine. Like, if there's someone that's like, I can cite a day and a time where I felt a shift, that's fine. But I think for a lot of people, it's a gradual, just slow awakening. And I think some people maybe don't feel comfortable to say that out loud in certain Christian spaces. And so I really appreciate you being very open about that. Like, I was raised in a Christian home. I inside didn't believe this. I was a wanna believer, and I slowly just started doing things and making choices. And I gradually found myself in a believing place, and I think that that's really probably true for a lot of people, and they don't want to say so.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that another thing in evangelical spaces is that it's not okay to question.
Yeah,
like, doubt is seemed as like a really, really bad thing. But I always think about Thomas, who, when Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life, we get that answer because Thomas was curious and asked a good question. It's like, how will we know the way? Well, because Thomas was brave enough to ask a question, we get this truth. Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. I'm like, thank you, Thomas. Thank you for showing us the way. And for me, those questions were the handholds and the footholds out of that pit I was in.
Yeah.
And I think that we just need to do more permission giving in regards to asking questions.
I agree with you. I agree so much with that. So, okay, your book, How to Love Your Morning. So if there's someone listening to this who works the night shift, or they have a baby who's up a million times at night, so they don't really know the difference between night and day, and they don't know when the day is going to start, like, should they just turn off this interview now? Like, is this only an interview? Is this only a book for people who have like a very predictable day and they know when it begins and when they should wake up? Tell us about that.
Don't leave, listener. Stay with us. I promise there's hope ahead. The good news is you are a morning person, even if you're a night owl. The good news is you are a morning person, even if life is chaotic. The good news is you are a morning person, even if you work the night shift. It's because God is a morning person. And since we are made in his image, we are morning people too. I know that God is a morning person. I feel certain of it because I studied all of the mornings mentioned in scripture, and over again, God is showing up in these incredible ways in the morning. It's not incidental. It's on purpose. I mean, Jesus is the ultimate morning person when he busted out of his tomb and wrecked his own funeral. I mean, that's like our whole faith hinges on that. And he is the bright and morning star. Yeah. So what I like to remind people of as they pick up this label in a way of, I think I'm a morning person. It's not about the time that you wake up. It's about who you wake up to be. It's about deciding this is the way that I want to show up in the world. I always like to tell people it is not a clock thing. It is a God thing.
Yeah. I think that's so good. I think that's so good. I love it. You had this quote in the book that said, "This is a book about mornings for real people who sometimes wake up brokenhearted, disillusioned, or unsteady. who have actual jobs, whiny kids, Mount Everest piles of laundry at the foot of their bed, and a penchant for snooze buttons. You don't need a morning philosophy that forces you to be happy or energetic on your hardest days. You don't need a morning routine that leaves you needing a nap afterward, a one that makes you feel like a loser. You need sacred morning rituals, fresh morning mindsets, and doable morning habits that will give you hope for the new day, as well as an assurance of God's morning mercies, even if you never fluff the bed pillows. And I love that so much. I was just like, this is a book for normal people with normal problems. I think that it's really easy to hear about people. When I hear about people who have like a rock solid morning routine and they're like, I'm at the gym every day at 5, or like I'm up in my Bible every day at 6, or you know what I mean? Like I live a whole life before my kids wake up or before my job starts. Like I just always assume like, well, I don't know. They're just like operating at a higher level than me. Like they have something I don't have. I'm missing the chip. Like I don't have the thing that they have, or maybe their kids are better than my kids, or maybe something, like, you know what I mean? Their physical body is just in better condition than mine is. Like they have something I don't have. And you in this book helped me to see, someone who does not self-identify as a morning person, you helped me to see, no, like there's nothing special about these people waking up. Like it's not like we can all do this. We can all meet here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I don't know a woman in my life who says, I want to wake up in a bad mood.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Every woman I know wants to find peace at the start of a day.
Yes.
And that can be hard to come by given all of the things that many of us face at all different seasons of life.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I'm like, I cannot wait for perfect conditions to decide that this matters.
Yeah.
And, I think there were probably some years ago that I wouldn't have said I'm a morning person. Because I thought it had to do with the time. I mean, you see it. It's and now that the Instagram aesthetic has doubled down on it, I didn't even have that when I was like a young mom. Yeah. But now it's like you got to get up at 5 a.m., do your 30-minute HIIT workout, come back home, have avocado toast with microgreens, exegete the whole Bible, the book of Leviticus, iron your bed sheets, all before like 7 or 8 a.m. And it's like, that just leaves me feeling exhausted and I'm a failure. So that means I'm a non-morning person. Yeah. But the bad thing, here's the thing. Here's why it's so important to just say, you know what, I'm a morning person. Because we are doing a disservice to ourselves if we let our chronotypes, meaning whether we're a night owl or an early bird, if we're letting the clock decide what our mornings are going to be like and drive our mornings, because how you name yourself shapes how you live. Yeah. If you say, I am such a non-morning person, I hate mornings, dread waking up, you're going to always enter the day defeated before you begin. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how you said, like, I don't know anyone that's like, I would like to start today in a bad mood. Like, I want to be short with my kids. No one wants that. We all want to have a nice, pleasant morning with our children or our spouse or our roommate or whatever. But sometimes we just feel stuck because we're like, I don't know. There's just like nothing I can do. I'm like not a morning person. So like, this is my lot in life. I guess I'm just going to be a miserable person in the morning and snap at everybody. And you're like, no, like it doesn't have to be that way. Can you talk a little bit more about the chronotype thing, like the night owl versus a morning person?
So that's where I think a lot of us get hung up on whether we are a morning person. We're basing it on the clock. We're basing it on what are called chronotypes. And a chronotype is what your natural inclination is, like when you go to bed. So morning chronotypes are also known as morning larks or early birds. They make up about 40% of the population. And they probably would say they function best at the start of the day. So then there's another 30% of the population that are evening chronotypes. So what you would think of as night owls. They go to bed late and they probably wake up late. And then the remaining 30% are somewhere in between. They call them day chronotypes. And these are things that we can't necessarily choose or change. It's like our biology. It's determined by genetics. And honestly, these can shift over time due to life seasons, due to age. But it's important to remember that our chronotypes don't have the right to dictate our mornings. We get to, if our morning starts at 5 a.m., if it starts at 8 a.m., or if it starts at 10 a.m., it is truly about how we wake up. It's not the start of somebody else's day. It's the start of your day. How can you make your day start with hope, joy, and peace? And that's the message that I want to bring to people.
Yes, absolutely. You talk a little bit about in the book also that for a while you had a very like legalistic view of mornings. And you were like, I had this vision of exactly what it needed to look like. It was supposed to be like this long morning session with God and candles and journals. And you're supposed to write things out in a certain way. And it's supposed to be very aesthetic looking and And it's so funny because that was the conversation I had just gotten into with my spiritual director last week when I was just telling her like, I just feel like I fail at my morning, like a quiet time, And she was like, well, what do you think it's supposed to look like? I'm like, like a candle and the tea and like a journal and then like this book and the commentary is supposed to be all those things. And she was like, well, who told you it had to be all those things? And so then it was so funny because then I'm reading your book and you said the same exact thing. You're like, I had this vision of what it had to be. And then it also led you into self-condemnation, where you said, few things have heaped more self-condemnation on Christ followers than the belief that they are not doing what they ought to do regarding morning quiet time, which I think is so huge. In like evangelical spaces now, like everyone's like blown the whistle on purity culture, right? And how like that was really rough on everyone. And like, some places were too legalistic and made people struggle with guilt. And it was very much based upon what's right and what's wrong and not honoring God with our bodies. Like we get it. But very rarely are people talking about how there was also a lot of like guilt and shame put on people about morning quiet time. Like we were like kind of raised in a way that was such that like, if you're a Christian, you will wake up and have this perfect morning quiet time. And if you don't, it's like, ugh, do you really love God at all? And so then there's like this guilt about it. And so it was very freeing for me to read your book and you say like, no, I've been there too. Like I felt the same way. Like I felt a lot of self-condemnation. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, we have bought into this idea that quiet time has to look a certain way. And it's really dangerous for a lot of reasons. Number one, because of the self-condemnation that people feel. And then they're like, well, if I can't do it like that, then I'm not going to do it at all. So then people are completely missing out on encountering God in the first moments of their day because they think that it only matters if it's 30 minutes.
Yes.
And then the other thing that is problematic with this is that we can end up saying, this is my God time, but then go on with life and leave him in the quiet time chair.
Sure.
Whereas we need to have a more holistic, embodied view of carrying Christ with us through our day. And I think that, just the Instagram aesthetic just doubles down on all of this. And we see what it looks like, and it looks so pretty and it looks filtered and it's lovely. And there's like maybe harp music playing in the background. Meanwhile, you've got kids screaming or, the garbage truck is outside making a bunch of noise. I think about Jesus in the Gospel of Mark. It says that early in the morning they couldn't find him and he was out praying. Everybody was looking for him and he was out praying. That's what he did early in the morning. And I just cannot imagine that he rolled up all of his scrolls and took his nice markers and his highlighters and went and found a quiet place under the tree. He went out and put his sandals on, went out some dusty road and said, I need to spend time with God. I need to spend time with the Father before I get about my day and get about my business. And then I'm going to do what he says to do. So I think that's a really great model for us. It does not have to be complicated. It just does not have to be complicated. You have permission to just shrink it down and make it work in the context of your regular life. That is not to say that we just ignore lengthy Bible times. I will strongly advocate for biblical literacy in the world. We need it. But that does not have to happen at 6 a.m. on a weekday morning when you're just trying to figure out how to get the kids awake and out the door, or get to your job on time. Like, you can pick other times for that deep study. Find a way. Yes, please find a way to start your day with God. But, the book includes a lot of different ways of starting your day with God that doesn't require some like mental gymnastics first thing in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that brings us into the 4 archetypes.
Oh, yes.
So I would love to talk about that, because you talk in the book about how that is kind of the key. Like, if you are still, like, if you've gotten this far in the interview and you're still like, yeah, but I just can't do it. The archetypes are kind of the key. Understanding your own archetype will unlock your mornings for you. Can you talk to us about those?
Yes. So when I was writing the book, before I started writing the book, I really wanted to find a one size fits all, tried and true morning routine that would just fit everybody.
Yeah.
Because there's secular books like that are super successful. I'm like,
for sure.
I need to do that. That's like a gimmick. I'm going to find that thing. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, that's not true. I had interviewed hundreds of women before writing the book as the foundation for research. And there were a lot of women in different life seasons approaching mornings in very different ways. And also I noted that they had a very different motivation for waking up. Like, there were certain things that excited them about the start of a new day, something worth waking up for. Yeah. And that's how these archetypes developed.
Yeah.
And I identified 4 main archetypes. One is the daybreak doer. This is the person who is really motivated by the thing they get to do. Like, maybe they are really more productive in the morning. They want to have a clear sense of what the work is that's ahead. So that doesn't mean that they just completely set aside God, but it may mean that they will handle some small task right away in the morning, or handle their to-do list so that they have a really clear idea of what's ahead for the day. And then they can, spend time in prayer, or, have a good breakfast or whatever. But it just gives them a reason for waking up. They are excited about what's ahead. The second type is the morning mover. And this is someone who likes to kickstart their metabolism. It kickstarts their mood when you move. That can do all of those things. And then the next type is a social seeker, or actually meditative mind. I'm going to do meditative mind first. Meditative mind probably fits the profile of like what it's, quote, supposed to be. As a Christian, somebody who goes straight into prayer, Bible reading, journaling, and all that. And that is awesome. If that's you listening right now, that is awesome. Like, never change. That's awesome. But they really need that, because it gives them a sense of calm in the first part of the day. We all need to have a little bit of a meditative mind in us at some point in the morning. But that's their first thing. And then the final type is the social seeker. Sometimes people are most surprised by this one. It's the one that needs some kind of connection emotionally, even maybe physically, to somebody. A lot of children are social seekers. That hasn't been like worked out of them yet. They come out of their bedrooms and they want to hug. They want to tell stories. When I interviewed widows, it turns out many of them were social seekers and didn't even realize it.
Oh, yeah.
And now that their loved one, their person isn't there, their mornings have really shifted. And so they have to be intentional about seeking like social interaction with people and seeking social interaction with God at the start of a day. What's important here is that when you start your day with something that motivates you out of your archetype, you will be motivated to begin your day, and you will find joy at the very front end of your day.
Yeah. That's really, really, really good. It's interesting because, like you said, like a meditative mind, like you were like, okay, everyone needs a little bit of that, right? And you're right. Like, every human in the world needs to be able to slow down and like be reflective and have like a quiet moment. But it is interesting that I do feel like in, Christian spaces, there's certain like archetypes or pathways or whatever that are more like celebrated. You know what I mean? People who thrive on long Bible study, like intellectual, like loving to learn about history and read and like dive into word meanings and things like that. Like that's amazing. And those tend to be elevated as opposed to people who maybe feel very close to God, like on a walk and talking to him,
Mhm.
or on a walk and appreciating his beautiful creation, or on a walk and listening to either worship music or scripture or whatever. That kind of a way of interacting with God isn't always held to like the same esteem. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
like I loved how in the book you were like, you need to figure out like how you like to meet with God. Like, do you know what I mean? Like if you need to move your body, like walk and listen to worship music or walk and talk to him. You know what I mean? Like that's like God gave you a body so you can move, like, and he designed you in a way that you love that and that helps you to feel alive. Like you need to be working in how you were designed, and that can help you feel like you're excited to get up for your day and to meet God in the morning, you know?
Absolutely. So I'm a morning mover. And
Yeah.
some people would be like, well, you're a Bible teacher. You should be a meditative mind.
Right.
Guess what? I'm a morning mover. I
Yeah.
get up at 5:07, which is way earlier than I want to get up for
Yeah.
my fitness classes. The reason being, I live in the country. I live in near a small town of 800 people. We have exactly one fitness class.
I'm sure.
So if I'm going to do that, I have to get up at 5:07 so I can get into town by 5:30.
Yeah.
And there is no like, I'm not reading my Bible before then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like barely just getting out the door to get there on time.
Yeah.
But when I am working out, I have become so aware of the gift
Yeah.
of this body, this imperfect body that gets to move. I am so aware of the blessing of these women that I get to work out with. And we're all like at different levels, and
Yeah.
we're just pushing ourselves, and afterward we're like, we're in each other's lives. So maybe I'm partly a social seeker too, because
Yeah.
I work a lot in isolation. But those days are my favorite.
Yeah.
I build my ritual upon the movement, and then when I get home, I'm like ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get my coffee, and then I'm going to light my little candle with a
Yeah.
match, and then I'm going to have my Bible time, and then I'm going to get to work.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I really love that. That it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. It's not the same for everyone. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's job is different. Everyone's kids are different. And you have to figure out. And like you said, I live out in the country. I don't want to wake up at 5:07, but I do want to go to this workout class. So I go to this first. And that, like, if you were so rigid that you felt like, no, I'm literally not allowed to work out before I read my Bible, then you would just never go to this class because you're not going to wake up at 4. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's good that you're able to be like, yeah, like every day looks a little different. It depends on what's going on, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like even these things can be translated to vacation, or,
Yeah.
you're with your parents, for the weekend or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
these things are portable. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's great too. It's like, we try to like make everything in the Christian life to look all this cookie cutter way. And do we forget that God is so just wildly creative?
Yes.
Like before the printing press, people weren't having quiet time with journals and with the scriptures rolled
Right.
out before them. They were like relying on what was in their mind. They were recite prayers that they had recited
Yeah.
since they were little kids. Like all of these things are just like can be done without
Yes.
candlelight and color-coded commentaries.
I love that. I love that. Now, you make a big point in the book to refer to it as a morning ritual and not a routine. And then you also compare it to like goals. Can you kind of talk about that? Like goals versus routine versus ritual, like the terminology?
Yes. So I don't call what I do in the morning a morning routine anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I used to. I call it a morning ritual.
Mm-hmm.
To me, when I think of morning routines or that word routine, I think of something that's performative.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as something that is a box to be checked off. A routine to me feels routine.
Mm-hmm.
I like the word ritual. And I mean, how we name things, I said this earlier, like how we name things, it matters. When
Hmm.
I think about rituals, I think about something that is sacred,
Hmm.
that is meaningful. I think about like how it connects to something ancient. One example of a cool ritual in my life is Christmas Eve, and
Hmm.
the room is ringed in candlelight. It's this simple act, but it
Hmm.
ties you together, and it ties you to Jesus, and it ties you to traditions over the years.
Hmm.
So you can turn anything into a ritual. It just is
Yeah.
a like a meaningful, repeatable pattern.
Hmm.
So for instance, like when I go to get my coffee, I go in the kitchen and I say out loud in the kitchen, "This is my coffee ritual."
Mm.
And it's just this acknowledgement that even this is special.
Yeah.
Even this ordinary thing is can be sacred. And it's like, thank you, God, for this coffee. Thank you for the warmth. Thank you for the aroma.
Hmm.
And while I am drinking my coffee during my coffee ritual, I stack onto it my pray for other people ritual.
Yeah.
I have a list on my refrigerator beside the coffee maker, and I go down that list and I pray for everybody, just like I
Mm.
promised I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm praying for them twice because I go back for a second cup.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. To me, like the word ritual implies something you get to do, and routine almost implies like something you have to do. You know what I mean? So I love that. How you're right, just the way we name things is so important. And I did that this week because I was reading this book as my coffee was brewing every morning. I made a point to be like, thank you, God, for this coffee, like, and for this ember mug that my sisters blessed me with for my birthday, and it
Yeah.
keeps my coffee hot forever, and it's a delight and a half. I really like that. I really like that. Another thing that I was very much struck by in the book is that growing up, I don't know where I got this, but like liturgy and like pre-written prayers for me somehow like got almost a bad rap to me. Like I kind of almost thought it was cheating. Like,
Hmm.
oh, well, like you're praying a prayer you didn't even think up yourself. Like you're praying something that somebody else wrote. Like you're cheating, like that's not as spiritual. And as I've moved into adulthood and been meeting with my spiritual director over the last few years, and then also in even reading your book, I have felt very free by liturgy and prayers that are pre-written for you. And I think that there's something really, really beautiful about that. So in your book, at the end of almost every at the end of every chapter, you have
Hmm.
like a pre-written out prayer that you're like, hey, feel free to pray this to start your day tomorrow. And I
Hmm.
think that that's so freeing for people. For me, who's been a Christian for forever, for someone who's maybe brand new to faith, to feel like I can wake up and I can read this prayer that somebody else wrote and I can find incredible meaning in that. Like, have you heard of the welcoming prayer?
No.
Oh, you should look it up. You would really
Okay.
love it. It's something my spiritual director told me about because I was, we've been talking about this, but like I had talked to her about like I struggle in the morning. Sometimes she's like, you should pray the welcoming prayer. It's just a very short, like it goes like welcome, welcome, welcome. And it's basically just like I welcome God into my day. I welcome him
Oh,
into everything that comes to me today. Like whatever. I'm like botching it obviously, but it's essentially that. And it's just really beautiful. And so like I'm just really excited now that I have your book to have this resource of all these prayers that you wrote out that I think are really beautiful. And I think it's a
thank you.
wonderful way to start the day. Can you speak to that a little about people just praying a prayer someone else wrote?
Yeah. I mean, Jesus taught us to pray, Our
Yeah.
Father who art in heaven. Like to him, like a prayer that has already been spoken out into the world is a valid way to pray. He told us exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
He gives us freedom. There's no guardrails on that. We can pray extemporaneously at any point, but he also knows that we need words for prayers. Like sometimes we just need some language, somebody else to guide us and lead us. And it was a joy to write these liturgies. This was a new thing for me. I'd never
Hmm.
written liturgies before for other people to pray, but I really enjoyed it. And I even just imagined us like reading it communally. And I think
Yes.
that's the beauty of like when I pray the Lord's Prayer, or any other kind of prayer that somebody else has written. I know that there's other people for centuries that have, prayed the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
when people recite the Apostles' Creed,
Mm-hmm.
that people have recited that as a statement of faith for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's just a really beautiful thing. My daughter, when she was over in England, really helped me to even more see the beauty of these kinds of things. She
Mm.
loves the Book of Common Prayer.
Mm.
She's now a member of the Church of England, and
Oh, wow.
yes, and they have a service at night, and it's called the Compline. And in the Compline, we went to one of these. It's at 9 p.m. at night, and the room is candlelit, and there's songs. There's it's just very quiet. It's
Mm.
hushed. It's holy. And when we were in Magdalen Chapel at Cambridge, the chaplain said, for hundreds of years, people have come into this chapel from the streets. They were the townspeople, and they were weary from their labors, and they went through this Compline service, and it about made me want to just like weep right then and there,
Mm-hmm.
to think about like across these generations, across hundreds and hundreds of years, people stepping under this steeple to pray this prayer together, and those prayers are still spoken today in
Yeah.
many liturgical churches. I think we have so much to learn from within the Christian faith, to learn from each other's
Yes.
traditions,
Yes.
and it can broaden and lengthen and deepen
Mm-hmm.
what we know about the Lord.
Absolutely. That's what I think. This is like such a tangent, but I think it's so funny about like different denominations, how it's like, it's easy to like be like, oh, well, like they do liturgical prayer. Like we don't do that. And it's like, why not? Like we could do that. Like it's a great thing. Like, it's just like, there's a lot of different ways to engage with the Lord,
Right.
like it's just like wonderful. And so I just really, really appreciated that. Um, Another part of your story that I really connected to is you talked about losing your dad.
Hmm.
I lost my mom about 3 years ago now,
Oh,
and similar situation to you, just the hospice of it all and
yeah.
just all that. It's horrible. And you talked about in the book how like oftentimes if we're going through something like that, it's like the first thing to go is going to be like your spiritual care, personal care. You're not going to be like, and oh, now I'm going to take this time. Like you're just like surviving.
That's right.
But you talked about how during that time when you were losing your dad, you like your morning routine shifted, your morning ritual shifted, but was very present. Can you talk to
Hmm.
us about that?
Yes. Dad was on hospice for many months.
Mm.
He had congestive heart failure, and that's often a lengthy period of time. So during that time, I wasn't just Dad's daughter, I became one of his caregivers.
Yeah.
And the mornings were especially hectic. It was getting him his meds, getting him his breakfast, meeting with nurses that were coming in or social workers,
Mm-hmm.
helping mom because she was grieving the loss of her husband. And then even in my own body and in my own heart, I'm like, each day is a gift, but it's also like a countdown. Like
Yes.
we're one day closer, and it's just like it just felt so heavy.
Yeah.
And then when I'd come back home, I felt overwhelmed by all the things that I had fallen behind on, and I wouldn't want it any other way. That isn't a complaint at all.
Of
It's
course.
just acknowledging that it was just a really, really hard season.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I realized that I need those soul keeping rituals every morning, because they
Mm-hmm.
reminded me that each day was a gift. They
Yeah.
helped me on my hardest days
Mm-hmm.
to be compassionate to Dad and to Mom and to my own self. They
Mm-hmm.
were these little touch points that I had when everything else turned upside down. It just like you said, I mean, during those times, it can seem like the morning ritual is it can be dispensable. We can just toss
Mm-hmm.
that aside. We'll pick it up another time. But that's actually when you need it most of all.
Yeah.
When life feels like it's falling apart, when your heart is breaking. It might not look the same way,
Right.
but doing what you can every day to take care of yourself. So for me, that meant like I was listening to the book or to the Bible on audio.
Mm-hmm.
It meant that I really was intentional about getting outside every day, taking a walk. It meant that I made sure I was like taking my meds and
Yeah.
my supplements, that I was eating breakfast, that I was getting enough sleep, doing all the things that were really important so that I could show up better in the world,
Of
not
course.
only for my dad and my mom, but for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think that we just can't wait for like things to just go perfectly before we decide that to start my day out is really, really important. Sometimes, though, you just got to shrink it down a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's such a good point that like we can't wait for the circumstances to be perfect to have a morning ritual, because honestly, we need it more when the circumstances are bad. Like that's almost when we really need it even more. I think of like, it's funny when I think about younger me. Sometimes I'm like, who was that person? Before I had kids, when I was like newly married, a professional, whatever, I would wake up, go to the gym, come back, shower, get to work a little early, get my stuff done. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, and then I had a baby who never slept. She never slept. And it was like, my whole personality changed. Like I just like was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like she is up all night. She would never nap during the day unless she was on my body. So like I was literally never apart from this child. Like, cause like all night I'm like nursing her and whatever. And then during the day, if she's napping, it's cause she's on my body. So it's like, I was never like putting her down and able to do something for myself. Like I never showered, like whatever. Now, obviously that was 9.5 years ago that she was born. But it was weird because I feel like in that year, I just kind of like took on this new persona of like, I don't know, like I'm a stressed out mom. My kids don't sleep. I don't know what's going on, And then meanwhile, though, my second baby was actually a pretty good sleeper, but I still didn't take back my mornings. You know what I mean? And then my third baby was like kind of in the middle, but like whatever, like my older kids were a little older. So it was fine. Like, and I find myself even recently still self-identifying as like, I don't know, like I can't do the mornings because like I just like the kids are up or whatever. And then all of a sudden I stop and I'm like, oh wait. Actually, all of my children sleep in their own bed at night through the night. And like, I can wake up before them now. Like you know what I mean? Like, it's like all of a sudden you just find like, I don't know, like I fell off the wagon of like waking up early and doing things. And then I just like forgot that that's available to me still, And it's just so interesting. Like I told you this past week, even just being like, no, I'm going to get up. I'm going to be up. I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to do a little reading and reflecting and praying, but short. Even like, have you ever used the Pause app by John Eldridge?
No, I haven't. You're teaching me all kinds of new things today.
You would love it. He does like guided meditations. You can click 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute. And he just like walks you through a prayer and he's just like, whatever. And there's like nature sounds and he's like praying. It's very nice. Wow. You should download. It's free. So even that, like sometimes some mornings, like I'll be like, I just listen to like a guided meditation, and it's just like you hit the day so much better. And it's just so funny that for so many years I felt so crushed by like, I could never do, I can't do it. And it's like, okay, that was 9 years ago that you had a baby that was up all night, not sleeping. Like that's not your life anymore. Like you can totally do this. And you need it. And honestly, I look back at me when I had a baby that wasn't sleeping and a ritual would have helped me then if I wouldn't have just flushed everything down the toilet because I was like, oh, I'm surviving. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like that would have been a time where I really would have benefited from still having a morning ritual, So I want to talk about some practical tips. If there's someone who's like, I have no idea where to start. Obviously, as we've already said in your book, you have all these morning liturgies that you wrote, which is a great place to start. But you talk about like the Rise and Shine 30 challenge. You talk about like worship music when you go for a walk. Tell us like some practical things for someone who's listening to this and they're like, I can't do it. I don't know what to do.
Okay. So we're going to start with the night before because a huge reason that most of us are having difficult mornings is because we're lacking the sleep that we need. Since the Industrial Revolution and the and artificial light into our worlds, we have lost 3 hours as Americans.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's no wonder we are tired. So we have to figure out how to take that back. So as much as we want to take our mornings back, we need to take our nights back. So that means deciding what time, how much sleep you need, and deciding what time you need to go to bed to get that done. And I get it. Like if you have little kids and then you've also got junior high kids that are up to whatever hour,
Yeah.
doing their homework or whatever. I mean, you'll have to work this out. You'll have to
Sure.
create patterns that maybe if you're a mom that aren't just going to affect you, but are going to, affect other people in the household.
Yeah.
But in any case, one of the huge things that has us keeping ourselves up late at night is what's called revenge bedtime procrastination.
Yes. Yes. This part, I was like, whoa, that's huge.
Yeah. And this is like this thing that we do to kind of, it's me time. Like finally, we don't have to take care of anybody else. And I am owed this release. I get to stay on TikTok as long as I want. I can just kind of zone out. I can watch one more Netflix show, whatever it is. And all of a sudden you look at the clock and you've lost an hour of sleep that you really needed.
Yeah.
For a better morning. And I mean, I know because I've just done it so many times throughout my life and deciding this is when I have to try to get to bed. And, somebody might say, yes, but I need that me time. Well, another place you can get me time is like in your bed. Like,
yes,
that is me time that you really, really need potentially at this, whatever the season of your life is.
Yes.
So that's the first thing I would do is like, look at your night. Be honest about your night. What does it look like? And you may be able to realize that, adding an extra half hour of sleep even to your night is going to help you when you wake up in the morning. The next thing I would say is to resist the urge to look at your phone right away in the morning.
Yeah.
It is... you're immediately like in some kind of fight flight pattern. As soon as you wake up, you got all these notifications and everything. And people are like, well, Jennifer, that's my alarm clock. Well, they still sell alarm clocks.
Yeah, they do. It's so true. We all say that same thing. Well, I have to look at my phone. It's my alarm clock. Like as if we don't live in a world with Amazon Prime where we can have an alarm clock by today at 2 p.m.
That's exactly right. And there's even something called a sunrise alarm clock that's a really pleasant way to wake up. You could be like a Disney princess, even if you don't look like one.
I love that.
And then the third thing that I would recommend is, to say like what Mother Teresa taught people to say all the time is like the first words out of your mouth to be good morning, Jesus. Like to greet him with the day, to make him your first thought and maybe even your first words, to say something like, yeah, good morning, Jesus, or God, I give you this day, or Holy Spirit, I need you to guide me because I'm just like this day ahead. I'm already kind of really worried about what it holds. God, your will for my life, not my own. Like just these little tiny prayers, some people call them breath prayers, would be a great place to start. Because if you start your day with God, the rest of your day has to level up to meet God. So like if you're setting your daily intentions and expectations around the heart of God, what a beautiful thing. Because for the remainder of the day, anytime some blessing happens in your life, you can be like, oh, that's God. Not that's by chance or that's lucky. That's God. And if really hard things happen as the day moves on, you can be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Even here in this hard thing, I know because I reminded myself of this morning, God is with me. I have his presence. I have his provision. I have his protection. I have his promises. So no matter what your day holds, be it blessing or be it difficulty, because you've started with God, you know where to point your eyes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The revenge bedtime procrastination thing is so huge. That is, I did that last night, actually. My husband is traveling. And so after I got all the kids in bed, I think I felt like really proud of myself that I'm like, I made it through the day. And then I like got in bed and I was like, oh, I'm going to fall asleep so early. And then it's going to be great because then I'm going to feel so good tomorrow. And then I just like doom scrolled for an hour and I was like, and then you look at what time it is. I'm like, why did I do that? It's like, you just like get so sucked in and we have to not do it because I get it that we describe, oh, it's my me time. I want to zone out. Did I feel better after doom scrolling for an hour? Absolutely not. Like, it's not like it was like bringing me up. Like, it wasn't like this was really like, it's not like I stayed up for an hour FaceTiming a friend I haven't talked to in a while. And it was like a really life-giving conversation that I needed. It was like stupid. You know what I mean? It was like doom scrolling on Instagram and getting absolutely nothing out of it and going down some rabbit trail like about nothing,
Right.
Like it's just like
Yeah.
we have to remember, I think you actually said this in the book, that like a lot of our like me time stuff we think is helping us and it's like not helping us at all. Like if you're going to have me time, like let it be something that's like going to be good for you in some way instead of just like a mindless doom scroll. Okay. We could go on forever, but I
Yes, we
wanted to
could.
say that at the end of the book, you did say like you give all of these examples about like mornings for people with 9 to 5s, morning for kids, mornings for people with young kids, mornings for widows, mornings for like literally like the most any person like will fit into one of these categories, and you give all these examples, which I think is like really, really great and helpful to people. So your book is both inspiring and also really practical and just like really accessible for people. So if you're listening to this and you're completely overwhelmed by the idea of a morning, this is such a good book because like I said, it's both inspiring about like the why and how like everyone is a morning person. And then there's so much practical in there for how to just like make it happen.
Thank you so much. I loved those guides. I loved putting them together. They were created by women in those stages, for women in those stages. Like I have not experienced life as a widow. I didn't have healthy habits as a college girl.
Right,
So I
right.
was able to interview women who are that age that
Yeah.
are doing their mornings fairly well and offered some really helpful tips. I learned from them. They're these,
Yes.
I mean, man, it was so cool to me to hear how women in these various stages are living their life, and they've so generously poured out their tips and their ideas in those guides. So I hope you take a look at those if you're listening.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Oh, tell us about the Rise and Shine 30 challenge. Or did we talk about that?
No, you
Oh,
mentioned
okay.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have this challenge, and it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's people who are reading the book and
Mhm.
taking in this message and like just need some easy things that they can do to kind of make some small shifts.
Mhm.
But there's other people that are picking up this book that really want to be challenged. Like
Mhm.
they really want to overhaul and redesign their morning into something else.
Yeah.
So for those people, I have created what's called the Rise and Shine 30 challenge.
Mhm.
And it involves, it's kind of like a fast. It's like giving up social media or sugar
Mhm.
or anything like that. But for 30 days, you wake up 30 minutes earlier and you start with your archetype,
Mhm.
whatever it is, and do something out of that archetype. And then you do something to help you engage with God and to encounter his presence in your life.
Mhm.
And try this for 30 days and just see what happens. It may be that you'll just go back to the way that you did things. It may be that you'll get a few new ideas and ways that you have encountered the Lord or that he has encountered you in these times. But I think it's a really powerful kickstart for people who just need a change and they need a guide.
Mhm.
So that's what I have offered them through the challenge.
I love it. I love it. This has been so helpful. Where can people find more from you, Jennifer?
So the book and all the related things are at
Mhm.
howtoloveyourmorning.com. And if you go to howtoloveyourmorning.com/resources, you can take the quiz to find out your archetype. There's some Bible study videos in there. We've got there's a How to Love Your Morning Bible study as well.
Awesome.
Yes. And then otherwise you can find me at Jennifer Dukes Lee on Facebook and Instagram and all the places.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. We just appreciate this. I know this is going to help so many of my listeners. I just appreciate you so much.